What's going on YouTube? Zero Lead here, and I'm back again with a new video. Episode 66, the Disco Era USS Enterprise tutorial. I just want to thank you very much for tuning into today's episode, and if you haven't, please don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button helping me in supporting the channel. I cannot thank you enough for that. And today we got about a 27-minute video. We're going to be completing the Jeffries tubes in engineering. That we didn't get a chance to do from episode 65, and then we're going to be moving right along to the bowling alley. We should be able to finish up the bowling alley between this episode and the next one. So without further ado, we're going to jump right into it. So we're just going to go in through our airlock on the sides, and right back here in this little space in the corner, we're going to be taking out the white concrete. It's 3 high and 2 wide. We're just taking off the wall for this side, I believe, because the floor on that side is flat. On this side, it's going to be 1 higher, so we're going to have to remove these dark gray blocks and then also that sea lantern. It is going to get a little bit dark at times in this video. This is one of the last of the pre-recordings I had done from when I originally built the ship. I think after we get through tomorrow's episode, and then I think there's like 1 or 2 more after that, but they might be condensed into one. But then after that, we'll be on fresh recordings, and I've been making a point to add in extra lighting. So if it gets dark in here, I apologize for that. I'm going to try to convert this over into 1080 to make sure that I get the highest resolution out of this as well. So you can see I'm building up here, going, I believe that's 4 high now, but we're going to flatten this roof out just a little bit here in a few moments. Right now, just worry about having and it doesn't necessarily have to be exactly what I have here. We can see I'm just closing in the hole there. But I'm going to open up this floor for a moment, because what my original idea was, I actually wanted this Jeffries tube to be more than a facade. But as you can see, we can't really build up too high, and if we go down below us, we'll be right in the next layer of engineering. And I didn't want this um, tube to be in the way of this next engineering deck. So that's why I ultimately made the decision to just have the Jeffries tube as a facade. This was just one of those cases where it was something that I wanted to do, but I should have planned it out a little bit more beforehand. But again, that just came into that I didn't decide I wanted to actually build a Jeffries tube until we were already well into working on our pretty much to the point where we were done with engineering before I decided I wanted to add it. So I mean, we'll be able to add the facade in, but moving forward, that's something I definitely want to incorporate in my other ships as much as possible, because I think that it's a cool detail to add in on your ship, and it adds in just another layer of realism. So now we're going to close in the floor, make sure that's perfectly flat. We're just using the dark gray. We're going to switch over to white concrete, actually light gray, just for that line right there in the doorway. This way to give the impression that there's like a hull line. And I think that looks fantastic like that. We're going to have to get a little bit of lighting in here too, but let's get rid of that lighter gray on the sides and then the back. We just want this to be just one flat color right now. Get rid of the blue. And then the floor, we can put some sea lanterns right now because we can afford that. We can always cover them up later on if need be, but now we can actually see in here just a little bit better. Now you can see I'm just closing in that roof there, making it flat at the angle. So that height of the room, it should be 5 high, I believe. I counted that correctly. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah. So what we're going to do now, we need a little bit more space. We're just going to shave off this back wall just by 1. We're going to do the same thing. We're building back towards the shuttle bay. So we're going backwards, not forwards. We're just taking 1 row off. And this way we can fit in another tubing in there. And this is just, I think it's going to further help to convey that, this is just kind of like, like a Jeffries tube, and it's exposing, some of the piping in there. And because that was something that was always, you'd see it throughout the TOS Enterprise, didn't have a lot of mechanical parts sticking out, but when it did, it was usually a red and yellow pipe. So that's my reasoning for why I have a lot of that. Anytime I want to show kind of like a little bit of mechanical stuff, because again, you got to understand that this version of the Enterprise, um, this is 60 years to, yeah, 60 something years, I think, before they decided to JJ Abrams the thing and add in a whole like bunch of actual mechanical parts inside the engineering. Where it was in this era, the Shatner era, even in the movies. And I've talked about this in the past that a lot of engineering, like it was basically built into the walls of the ship, kind of like a space shuttle, um, or like some of the modern spacecraft. They don't have their engineering or their warp or their what am I trying to say? The engine's inner workings in the middle of the craft, or the the ability, the oxygen and all that being in the middle of the craft. That's going to be over tucked in the sides into the actual hull. Um, so that's the reason why we're not doing a ton of detail building out all these massive things. Main focus is the warp core, just like in the movies and the show. Anyway, that's really all we have to do for the Jeffries tubes. It was really just pretty cut and dry on that one. But now we're going to be moving on to the main event, or bowling alley. And if I don't pull them up in this video, and actually I want to rewind just a little bit so I can show you guys exactly where I'm building them. Sorry about that. So we're going up into the saucer section, and we're going to make our first right. We're in our circular corridors, and this is going to be our first left now. This cutout that we made so many episodes ago. Now we're finally going to start going into these rooms and start filling them in. So this is where we're going to be building our actual bowling alley. And I don't pull them up in this video, but if you would like to know the reference that I used for the bowling alley, just go on Google and type in TOS Enterprise Bowling Alley. If you have trouble finding something, type in Star Trek TOS Animated Series Enterprise Bowling Alley. It'll come up. And the original Enterprise did definitely have a bowling alley, and it was even on that show. So just for that reason, we're going to build it, because um, my main goal with this ship is, because even on my Enterprise A, it's not 100% done. I really want to try to flesh this thing out as much as I possibly can. So I've really been rocking and rolling in the past week and a half. I've been getting back on Minecraft because now I've been catching up to myself. I've been recording new sessions. I've been trying to bang out the rest of this interior and get it all fleshed out before we move on to the next thing. I've had a couple of requests lately ask me little things here and there, and I haven't directly answered some of those comments yet, but I have heard you guys on questions on. There was one question as far as detailing on the lower hull. We're going to get to that. I had another question asking me about if I could help out and build. If there was a way to build a small shuttle on Minecraft, and I've got something for you too for that. That's going to be something I think I'm going to do towards the end of this, um, but I'm definitely going to do it. I don't know if it's going to be directly attached onto the Discovery Enterprise tutorial. It might be, just because when I build the shuttle, I'm going to make it with the intention of putting it in this ship. So I'm going to try to come up with at least one way to build a shuttle, but I might have more than one, because when I did this before for my Enterprise A, I actually built like 4 different versions of it. So that's going to be really cool. So right now you can see I'm going at an angle. Really, there's no other choice here. And you can see I'm slowly divided out. I've got my middle line and I've got my 2 sides that I made here. So this way I'm trying to keep the shape of my bowling alley as accurate as I possibly can on a grid, building it at an angle. Um, if you're not sure on how many I spaced it apart, go back and watch it again. I know it's a little bit dark, um, But again, this is one of my previous recordings, so hopefully the new one should be better. But you'll see. I don't usually like to build going at an angle too much, and the reason for that is because just it's hard to get like a clean line out of an angle. It's kind of no matter what, it's jagged. But for this room and what we're doing, we really didn't really have any other choice other than to have the bowling alley going at an angle. So I'm just trying to make lemonade out of lemons at this point and go with it. But for the most part, on the saucer anyway, this is going to be the only room that is actually going at an angle. So now we're going to be grabbing. We're looking for different types of wood. So we're getting jungle wood because right now we're getting ready to start working on our flooring. So obviously, bowling alley flooring, is going to be different types of wood. So I'm just looking for basically one shade right now. I believe that we're going to end up with two different shades and we'll have like a nice little contrast. Now I'm going to outline what I currently have right now. So we're going to do a row on the left, the back, and then the right. Then in a few moments, we'll start plotting out our lanes and we can get a couple more things done. Not a super long video today, excuse me, but still 27 minutes. We've got some stuff to accomplish today. I'm trying to, when I do these interiors, I'm trying to focus on the single room individually instead of hopping back and forth. Trying to get these done in one or two sessions, if not just one. But sometimes, like the bowling alley, for example, there was just so much to do on this. This stretched out, I believe, to two videos. So, um, but I still have a lot of cool stuff to do. There's a what have I? Today I was actually on Minecraft and I was building, and I built out the torpedo room that is now completed. What else did I build? I started working on the inside of the impulse engine rooms because there's two of them. Um, I haven't completed that yet, but I started to work on it. I did start and finish the general crew quarters, so that's 100% completed as well. So I've been rocking out. I've got some more things I still have to do. I have to do junior officers' quarters. We have to do captain's quarters, admiral's quarters. We've got to do the mess hall, and we need to do some type of recreation room, maybe outside of a bowling alley. I haven't really decided yet, but I'm probably gonna end up doing something with that. And I might, if I have any room after that, try to fit in like I don't know. There's maybe a couple of things that we could do, but Um, I apologize. I had somewhere I was going with that, but I completely lost my train of thought because what we had going on here. But if there's anything else that you guys and ladies would like to see me build, make sure to drop a comment below, especially while I'm still working on this tutorial. I definitely appreciate any type of feedback or stuff that you would like to see me do because that helps me with getting content on here. And you never know, even if you might think it's like a small, silly idea, drop a comment because I'd love to hear it. Oh, I remember now. The other thing that I wanted to do is that I'm going to be building the captain's wheel room, and then of course I've got to also build the conference room. So there's still a lot of things to do on the interior of this ship, but I'm going to try to do it in a way that it doesn't stretch out the tutorial another 20 or 30 episodes. I want to try to do it in the least amount of episodes as I possibly can. So this way I can start working on some other builds on Minecraft, but I'm only working on one right now because you can see, I mean, this enterprise is taking up a considerable amount of time, not only to build, but to do the videos for, which I don't mind, but that's why I'm only doing one of these at a time for Minecraft. So hopping back in, you can see that now I've got my lanes plotted out, and now we're switching to a lighter wood. This darker wood would be considered the gutter lanes, but we don't have a gutter because we just don't have the room, and at this angle, Um, I don't think that if we built something down, going down the sides, it would really look that much like a gutter. So that was honestly my main reason for like, you know what, we're just gonna skip having the actual gutter. We'll have the wood borders on the side and just call it a day with that. Because this doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to, look good and convey that it's a bowling alley. And if you've seen the screenshot before you clicked on this video, this is what the bowling alley looks like, and I hope that everybody enjoys it. But again, there's going to be certain liberties that you can take here and there, and if I hadn't mentioned that this thing doesn't have gutters on the side, you may not have noticed it. So that's just something to definitely take into consideration when you're working on these builds. All right, so we've got one left now. We're going to fill in this lane, and then we're going to move right along. We are jamming. We're 14 minutes in. We still have another 12 minutes or so before it's going to conclude the rest of this episode, but we still have some stuff to do. All right. So now we have our lanes plotted out. I think that looks pretty good. I'm not a fan of it going at an angle, but there's nothing that we can do. In order to use the maximum amount of room for the space that we have, I think the angle is the only thing that we could have done. So I'm actually switching to the black concrete. This is just for the back row because we obviously won't be able to build pins or anything to knock down, but we need to emphasize that that there's a space that the balls and the pins are going to go into, even though there's technically not anything that you can build into. Putting those black blocks right there, kind of once we build around it, um, it'll definitely help sell um, that maybe that there's just like a hole there, you know, even though it's actually just black blocks. So now we're just continuing on with the same pattern, but one row up now with a light gray. Starting to structure out our back wall of our bowling alley. Looking pretty good. And now we're going to do light gray going along the sides. You can see here that we've got a little bit of a tiny bit of a gap in the back, but not so much in the front. There's just nothing that we can do about that. Um, but you don't have to necessarily worry about filling in these tiny gaps right here because once we get the walls up and everything, and we use the space that we need, it's going to come out great. And that's how I do this whole interior on this ship. I don't worry about trying to fill in every single square foot of this thing. I build out what I intend to build out, and if there's any gaps in between, I fill it in so you don't even notice. And I really feel that that's one of the best things to do for this build. It's not 100% practical to like a real life ship, but at the end of the day, we're not making a real life ship. We're really just making um, a glorified facade because this thing is never going to move. It's just going to sit here. But it's still a lot of fun for doing these builds. I really enjoy them anyway. Which I mean, I've been working on Minecraft builds now for 10 years or so, and I still haven't gotten tired of them. So I mean, it's a great hobby to have, and I highly recommend them. And if you're just now tuning into my videos, I would definitely recommend checking out the beginning of this tutorial. I'll go over everything with you and what you need to do. And if this is too much for you, check out my mock tutorial on the Enterprise. I built a smaller scale Enterprise that's a little bit more manageable for beginners, and that can definitely help you out as well. So you can see I'm starting to build up my walls now. I have a little bit of a better idea of the real estate that we're going to have to work with. Not a super big room, but at the end of the day, we just don't really need anything bigger than this. So now we're going to add in one more row going up, and this is going to get dark here, and I apologize for that. but I'm not building up straight above where our existing wall is. So you can see I'm going one forward, and I'm just going along the line of the wall, but obviously making sure that the blocks that I'm adding are not directly above the wall that we just built, but one block in front, if that makes sense. And this will help to give the room just a little bit more shape than just being a big square. All right, we're looking pretty good aside from some light. Uh, we need to get some light in here, and we'll be in pretty good shape. Now, I could be mistaken, but I think I'm going to have to take out those lights right there because I believe I just built into my roof, and I'm going to have to move those lights down by one. They can stay for now, but the problem is when we go on the outside and look up, we're going to be seeing right outside. I'm not noticing it because the side that I'm at right here, going along this wall, we're towards the center of the saucer, so it's one thicker there. But when you move out towards the center of this room, this roof is only one thick. And now I just realized it. I'm gonna go out here and take a look. Oh gosh, I have all those sea lanterns there, so that's not gonna work. So let's fill that in real quick. And now we're gonna go back in. On this left side here, I mean, that could stay, but we're gonna have to figure something else out. I think ultimately what we're gonna have to do here to fix this, more than likely, is just add another row down, and we can add in one more layer going along the roof here. We're gonna have to go back outside and get rid of the sea lanterns that are showing from the outside of the ship as well. And this gap in between the sea lanterns and the ceiling, we're going to fill in those as well. And another solution what we can do too, rather than just filling in the whole roof and adding in one more layer, is we can use half slabs just going along the line of the sea lanterns here to kind of like edge it off a bit, and it won't be sticking out like such a sore thumb. It'll look a little bit more blended in to the roof. Now we might make some minor adjustments to the lighting. Might leave it. I'm not exactly 100% committed to it just yet, but we'll get there. We still have a little bit more video to go, and then we still have tomorrow's episode as well before we completely wrap this thing up. Now, directly going backwards now from our bowling alley, we're just going to add in two more rows. I did one row of light gray, and now I'm switching back to the white concrete because I want to see how many rows that I'm actually adding on. And on this back row of white concrete, now we're going to do our wall. Don't worry about the gap right behind it. Once we fill this in, you'll never see it. And we'll fill in those back two walls right there with the white. It looks a little bit better. Might have to move that wall back by one more also. Feels like it's too tight right now. And the same thing right here. We don't have to worry about this open space. We can just fill this in. You'll never know that it's there. Yeah, I think we're gonna have to excuse me, I think we're gonna have to slightly adjust this wall, move it a little bit further back. And the reason for that is because I mean we have enough room to walk in and walk into our bowling alley, but we don't have any room for like if we want to put any chairs down. Or like what's the other thing you can think of that's in a bowling alley? You need the actual table where you're taking score of each game, and then you need the screens above you. So we've got to build that stuff also. So again, that's just going to come back into attention to detail on what should be, in this case, on a bowling alley. Now you can see I'm trying to use the pre-existing wall on the other side. I'm keeping the same pattern that we had before, where it's going straight across at an angle using what we currently have. So this way, I can maximize the amount of space that I have and use what I currently have as well. And the blue stripes, don't worry about that. We'll cross that bridge once we get there. I think we're looking pretty good so far. So far, so good. You've gotten a lot done in today's episode. So I think when we hop back in tomorrow, we'll be focusing mostly on detailing in this room. But the main structure of it at this point has been built. We just have a couple of loose odds and ends that we have to tie up. We're closing this roof going along here. And then we'll do this side as well. And again, don't worry about the dark or the different colors. We'll get into this in tomorrow's episode. We're not going to worry about it just right this moment. As you can see, if we delete that, then we're building into our transporter room. So those objects have to stay there, but we have a little bit more room to work with now. And I think we're in pretty good shape. I think this is a good point to stop at, and tomorrow we'll pick it up again. So anyway, I just want to thank everybody for tuning into today's episode. I really hope that you enjoyed today's content as much as I've enjoyed making this whole tutorial series for you. If you're still with me building, I hope that you've appreciated that I've stuck it out, and I fully intend to finish this build. And again, this is not the last build that I'm going to be doing on Minecraft. This is only the beginning. There's plenty more to come. I've got a lot of cool stuff planned in the future. And speaking of new content, don't forget to tune in tomorrow for episode 67. In fact, you can always catch new Minecraft episodes Tuesdays through Fridays. And also don't forget to check out my Starship Evo builds on Mondays. Anyway, that's going to wrap it up for me. Just want to thank everybody again for tuning in, and I hope everybody has a happy and safe week, and I will catch everybody on tomorrow's video.